Alina didn't tell anyone it was her birthday. She never did. There was no cake, no candles, no dinner plans or decorative posts on social media. At 33, she preferred the day to come and go like a passing breeze, acknowledged only in the privacy of her own head. She woke early, ironed her blouse crisp, and headed to the office like any other Wednesday. Her coworkers chatted about summer vacations and fantasy football, oblivious. She didn't mind, not anymore. At lunch, she sat alone at her desk and ate her sandwich with one hand while flipping through a spreadsheet on her monitor. The cold fluorescent lights above her buzzed faintly. She checked her email. Nothing. She checked her phone. Still nothing. Until it buzzed. A package has been delivered. She frowned. She wasn't expecting anything. Later that evening, after the slow commute home to her apartment in Bronzeville, Alina found a small brown box on her doorstep. No return address. Just her name and a Georgia postmark. She paused, heart nudging against her chest as a strange familiarity crept up. She took it inside and set it on the kitchen table. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. She flipped on a lamp, then sat, staring at the box like it might explode. Her hands hovered before finally slicing the tape open with a butter knife. Inside, a metal tin of cookies wrapped in thin gold tissue paper. Underneath, a folded sheet of paper. Her fingers trembled slightly as she opened it. Happy birthday, Lena. Sorry, I ain't good at much else. Thought you might like these. Dad, she hadn't spoken to Walter in 5 years. The last time was a phone call she'd ended with, "You don't get to rewrite the past just because you're lonely now." He'd hung up without a word. And she hadn't heard from him since. Alina stared at the tin. It smelled faintly of sugar and cinnamon and something deeper, maybe almond. Maybe apology. She picked one up, then put it back. 2 days later, she drove the 45 minutes down I-57 to Camille's house in South Suburbia. The streets were wide, the trees taller, and the sky felt more open here. Camille's small brick duplex had chipped paint. Around the porch in a basketball hoop with no net, Malik's bike lay tipped on the lawn, half buried in early summer weeds. Alina exhaled, grabbed the cookie tin from the passenger seat, and made her way to the door. Camille opened it in a t-shirt and head wrap, brows lifted in surprise. Didn't expect you on a Friday? Alina shrugged. Had the day off? Brought something for Malik. She held up the tin. Camille stepped aside. Come in. He's in the back, building something with Legos. The house smelled like hair grease, detergent, and reheated pizza, lived in, warm. Alina set the tin on the counter. She didn't mention Walter. Camille eyed it. These from that bougie store downtown. No, Georgia, Alina said quietly. Dad sent them. Camille froze. Her mouth opened slightly, but she didn't speak. She just nodded and looked down. Malik burst into the room, minutes later, grinning, a Lego sword in his hand. Auntie, Lena. She smiled despite herself. Hey, sweet pea, what's that? He asked, pointing to the tin. Cookies, from Grandpa. He blinked. We have a grandpa. Camille laughed dryly. Long story, baby. Alina sat down on the couch. While Malik dug into the tin, he bit into a chocolate chunk and gave a satisfied moan. These good. Camille pulled one out too, chewing slowly, watching her sister with unreadable eyes. You didn't want them. I figured. You two deserved something sweet. Camille's jaw tightened, then softened. Thanks. Alina looked at the boy curled on the rug. There was something healing in watching him eat without fear, love in the way Camille tucked a napkin under his chin. She didn't say it, but this was why she gave the cookies away. Not forgiveness, just love passed on. Quietly, they talked for another hour. Mostly small things: Camille's job search, Malik's obsession with astronomy, a neighbor's dog that kept escaping. As she left, Camille walked her to the door. You okay? Camille asked, tone soft. I don't know, Alina said honestly, but I think I will be. Camille hugged her tight. Real. Come by more. Alina nodded. Yeah, I will. The sun had dipped low by the time she got into her car. The tin was gone, but something else lingered in its place. A weight lifted. Maybe. A small piece. She drove home without turning on the radio. Asterisk. The next morning, Malik tucked the last cookie into a Ziploc bag before school. Just one, Camille warned, tying his shoelaces while he fidgeted. You don't need all that sugar before math class. Malik grinned. It's for lunch, I'll save it. Camille kissed his forehead and watched him bounce down the front steps. Backpack flapping behind him. She sipped her coffee on the porch a moment longer, smiling softly. The morning was still warm from the night, sunlight slipping through the trees. But by 1:47 p.m., her phone rang and the moment shattered. Camille Devereaux, a voice asked tightly. "This is Ms. Godfrey, the school nurse at Briarstone Elementary. You need to come immediately. It's your son." Camille's tires screeched as she pulled into the school parking lot. A woman in scrubs mid-50s, glasses low on her nose, met her at the entrance. "Where is he?" Camille gasped. "Follow me," Ms. Godfrey said, voice clipped. "He vomited twice. He was pale, sweating, said he had a stomachache for over an hour." Camille's heels clicked hard against the linoleum. "Why didn't anyone call sooner? We were monitoring. Then he mentioned eating a cookie from home, and we thought it best to err on the side of caution." The nurse's tone was too careful. Camille caught it immediately, that invisible layer of judgment laced into the words. They reached the infirmary. Malik lay on a narrow cot, curled up, face flushed. His eyes flicked open when he saw her. "Mommy," he whimpered. Camille dropped to her knees beside him. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." He clutched her arm with shaky fingers. "I don't feel good. I know, sweet pea. We're going to take care of you." Ms. Godfrey hovered. "I've called an ambulance just to be safe. And per policy, we also contacted the school resource officer." Camille stiffened. "Why would you do that?" Ms. Godfrey folded her arms. "It's protocol when we suspect food poisoning from a non-school source. We have to consider all factors, including safety." As if on cue, the door opened and in walked Officer Tolan. White, mid-30s, square jaw, and the kind of calm that came from control. "Too much control, ma'am," he said, nodding. "Mind if I ask you a few questions while we wait for the ambulance?" Camille rose slowly. "I'd rather focus on my son." "It won't take long," he said. "We just want to understand what he ate, who prepared it, and if there's anything else we should be aware of." She blinked. "You think I poisoned my own child?" "No one said that," he replied. "We're just looking into all possible scenarios." Ms. Godfrey interjected. "He mentioned it came from a family member. We're not making accusations, doing our due diligence." Camille looked down at Malik's tear-streaked face. He was watching everything, wide-eyed, too quiet for a 9-year-old. Her voice shook. "It was a birthday cookie. From his aunt. From my sister. That's all it was?" The officer nodded slowly, scribbling in a small notebook. "We'll need the packaging, if you still have it. And your sister's contact information." Camille stared at them both, nurse and officer, standing in that sterile room. Drawing conclusions she could feel before they spoke them. She knew. This dance, she'd seen it. The assumption behind the questions. The suspicion dressed up in concern. The paramedics arrived. Malik was lifted onto the gurney, moaning softly. Camille held his hand the entire time. "Everything's gonna be fine," she whispered, though her stomach twisted with doubt, as they wheeled him out. Ms. Godfrey called after her. "Someone from DCFS may reach out to follow up." Against standard protocol. Camille didn't answer. She couldn't. The words lodged somewhere deep in her chest, outside. As sirens wailed and wind rustled the trees, she looked up at the sky and wondered how the hell had a cookie turned into this. The morning after the hospital visit, Camille hadn't slept. Malik lay curled beside her on the couch, wrapped in his Spider-Man blanket. He'd been discharged late that night, the doctors attributing his symptoms to possible food contamination, but withholding specifics until toxicology came back. Camille rubbed her temples and stared at the clock. 9:07 a.m., the knock came at 9:10. 3 sharp raps, then a pause. Then 2 more. It was the kind of knock that wasn't just loud, it was official. She opened the door in a hoodie and sweatpants. Mascara smudged under tired eyes. A woman stood on the steps with a badge clipped to her coat and a slim black folder in her hands. "Camille Devereaux?" "Yes. I'm Janice Hill, with the Department of Children and Family Services." "Of course." Camille stepped aside without speaking. Janice entered briskly, eyes scanning the apartment like she was already building a report in her head. Her blouse was neat, her voice cool. Everything about her said polite danger. "May I sit?" Camille nodded numbly. Malik stirred but didn't wake. Janice opened her folder. "We received a call from Briarstone Elementary regarding a potential ingestion incident involving your son. I'd like to ask a few questions to determine the safety of the home." Camille's throat tightened. "He's fine. He just got back from the ER." "I understand." Janice said without looking up. What exactly did he eat that morning? A cookie, from my sister. Did she prepare it? No, it was mailed. From our father. My sister gave it to him. Janice paused. Do you have the packaging? No. I threw it out when he got sick. Did the cookie appear homemade or store-bought? I don't know. It came in a tin. Looked nice. Janice wrote silently, the sound of her pen scratching too loud in the quiet. Have there been any prior incidents involving your child? Injuries? Accidents? Camille's head snapped up. He's 9. He skinned his knees. Is that what you mean? Janice didn't flinch. We ask all parents. Camille crossed her arms. No, you don't. A pause. Then, do you use recreational drugs in the home? No. Anyone else in the household? It's just me and my son. Janice gave a polite nod, as if she'd already written something different in her notes. She rose slowly, flipping the folder closed. I may need to follow up, pending the toxicology results. We're just ensuring child safety, Ms. Dever. She walked to the door, and Camille followed, pulse pounding. Just as Janice opened it, they both froze. Mrs. Dalton stood outside Camille's upstairs neighbor. A white woman in her 60s with curlers still in her hair and a chihuahua under one arm. Oh, Mrs. Dalton said, eyes flicking between the two. I thought I heard yelling. There wasn't, Camille said flatly. Mrs. Dalton smiled thinly. Well, you know. With everything going on, Camille narrowed her eyes. Going on, you being investigated and all. I just think some people shouldn't be raising kids if they can't even feed them safe food. She let the words hang like smoke. Janice stepped back instinctively. Camille stared, stunned. Then her voice dropped low. Say that again. Mrs. Dalton scoffed. Ghetto trash. That's what my husband said. We pay taxes to live here. Camille stepped forward. Get off my porch. Mrs. Dalton clutched her dog and turned, muttering, no wonder the school called. Janice said nothing. Inside, Malik had woken. He watched. Through the screen door, eyes wide. Camille closed it gently, then dropped to her knees beside him. You okay, baby? He nodded slowly. She hugged him tight, rage swelling under her skin. No place to go. No one to scream at, just the burning. Her phone buzzed. Alina, just saw your missed call. You okay? She stared at the screen, then typed, call me now. It's about the cookies. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Alina's voice crackled through the phone. Wait, what did they find in the cookies? Camille sat stiffly on the edge of her couch, a DCFS report open on the table in front of her. Malik was at school. For now, her stomach hadn't unclenched in days. THC, she said flatly. Trace amounts. They think it was cross-contamination from wherever our father got them. Silence stretched. Then, Jesus. They said it wasn't enough to intoxicate him, Camille added. But it was enough to show up on the toxicology. Did you tell them that? About the bakery. They didn't care. Camille's voice cracked. The officer said, and, I quote, intent isn't everything. 2 days later, she found herself sitting beside a court-appointed attorney who hadn't looked up from his file in the last 10 minutes. I'm not a criminal, Camille whispered. He grunted. You're not being charged. It's a family services hearing. They're evaluating custody risk, not assigning guilt. Feels the same. He scribbled something, then sighed. Best case scenario. They offer an in-home safety plan and supervision. Worst case, temporary removal. Camille blinked. What? I'm just saying what's on the table. Across the waiting area, a white mother wrangled 2 kids under 5, one of whom was eating M&Ms off the floor. No clipboard, no lawyer, no judgment. Camille turned away. The next morning, Camille walked Malik to class herself. She wasn't ready to let him out of her sight. Mrs. Reynolds, his 5th-grade teacher, met them at the door. Blonde, cheerful, too bright. Oh, Camille, right, she said with a tight smile. I just wanted to say I'm so sorry this is happening. It's just ... The school had to report it. Camille nodded. You thought my son was poisoned. I get it. Mrs. Reynolds placed a hand lightly on Camille's arm. I mean, imagine if we hadn't acted. You know how these things look. These things, you know when things slip through the cracks. The system isn't perfect, but we're all just trying to protect the children. Camille gently pulled her arm away. Protect him by traumatizing him, got it. Mrs. Reynolds laughed awkwardly. Well, at least he has you. And now support, I mean. Now that people are watching, maybe it'll help you get back on your feet. Camille stared. I have a job. Oh, a blink. I didn't realize. Because you assumed I didn't. Mrs. Reynolds stiffened. That's not what I meant. But Camille was already walking down the hall. She kissed Malik's forehead and watched him vanish into the classroom. Back in the car, her phone lit up with a court date, the official summons. Her breath caught. That night, Alina sat across from her at the kitchen table. I found the bakery, Alina said. It's a place in Decatur. I called them. Camille's eyes widened. And? They said they use shared equipment. One side's for regular stuff, the other for edibles. The batches might have gotten mixed. Did they admit it? No, but the guy said, we've had this issue before. I recorded it. Camille exhaled. Think it'll help? Alina shook her head. Maybe, but if they've already decided what kind of mother you are. Camille looked toward Malik's bedroom. Then the facts don't matter. The weight was everywhere, on her chest, behind her eyes, wrapped around her name like a warning label. She folded the court paper in half, then in half again, then again. Alina couldn't sleep. The call with Camille echoed in her head on repeat every sentence. Every pause, heavy with guilt she couldn't shake. She hadn't meant for this to happen. All she'd done was pass along a box of cookies. A gesture, a crumb of connection, but now her sister might lose her son. And all of it traced back to Alina's choice. On Sunday morning, she stood at her kitchen window, watching the street below blur into motion. She tapped her fingers against her coffee mug, then reached for her phone. Her thumb hovered over a contact she hadn't touched in years. Walter, she dialed. He answered on the third ring. Lena, her throat caught. Hey, a pause. Didn't think I'd hear from you again. Where'd you get those cookies? He laughed, raspy and dismissive. What, you didn't like 'em? She didn't laugh. Malik got sick. Hospital sick. Silence. They found THC in them. She continued, voice flat. Camille's got a court date. DCFS, it's a whole thing. Walter exhaled. Shit, really? Yeah, so I need to know where exactly did you get them? He hesitated. Guy, down the street, owns a bakery out of his garage. Said they were regular cookies. Swore on it. You didn't check. I tasted one. Tasted fine. Thought it was a nice gesture. A shrug in his tone, too casual. Alina closed her eyes. You didn't think to ask if he bakes pot cookies next to the regular ones. Didn't think I needed to. Damn, Lena, I was trying to do something nice. She almost dropped the phone. Doing something nice doesn't erase everything else. Still holding that against me. You don't get to poison my family and call it kindness, she snapped. He sighed. It was a damn cookie, not a bullet. You act like I set him up. And with that, something snapped inside her. She hung up without another word. On Monday, Alina walked into the office late. She didn't bother with foundation, didn't flat iron her curls. She moved like a ghost in a tailored blazer. The spreadsheet on her screen blurred into white noise. She heard voices down the hall. Trish, laughing about something, too loud, like always. The break room filled with chatter about concerts, lake plans, someone's weekend spa getaway. Alina sat at her desk, chewing on the inside of her cheek, trying to feel normal, trying to stay invisible. Then Trish appeared behind her. Hey superstar, Trish chirped, leaning over the cubicle wall. Saw your quarterly numbers, killing it. Guess those diversity hires really do pull their weight, huh? The room didn't go silent, but Alina did. The words hit her like slush to the face, drenched in a smile, stabbed through a compliment. She turned slowly. What did you just say? Trish blinked. I meant that in a good way. Alina stood. Don't ever say that to me again. Trish laughed nervously. Okay. Yikes. Someone's sensitive today. That was it. Alina grabbed her bag and walked straight past the coffee machine. The meeting room, the floor-to-ceiling windows filled with city light. Outside, she gasped for breath like she'd been drowning. She sat in her car for 27 minutes, then drove straight to Camille's. When Camille opened the door, Alina fell into her arms without a word. Camille held her tight. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing left to explain. Alina sat at the kitchen table, still in her blazer, staring at the linoleum. I don't know how to carry this, she whispered. You don't have to alone, Camille said softly. But tomorrow, we fight. Asterisk. The next morning, the courthouse smelled like old coffee, bleach, and the slow decay of hope. Camille stood in line at security, arms wrapped around her folder of paperwork like it was armor. The folder contained everything: school records, Malik's birth certificate, printouts of texts from Alina. Even a note from the hospital that read no signs of abuse or neglect. None of it made her feel safer. She stepped through the metal detector and found her way to courtroom 5C. The hallway was narrow, painted in beige so dull it swallowed sound. She checked the time. Her lawyer was already late. 10:27 a.m. She sat down on the hard bench and tried not to look like a defendant. Other families paced or whispered with counsel. Most of them were black or brown. Most of them were alone. Las 10:43 a.m. Still no lawyer. When he finally arrived, briefcase in hand, coffee in the other, he barely looked at her. Sorry, he muttered, not even taking a seat. Got pulled into something upstairs. Camille blinked. We're about to go in. He nodded. We'll keep it simple. Don't over-explain. Let me talk. Before she could respond, the bailiff called her name. The courtroom was colder than the hallway. Judge Monroe sat high behind the bench, white mid-50s, expression unreadable and carved from concrete. The prosecutor stood ready, young, suited, confident. Camille's lawyer adjusted his tie like it was a weapon. Monroe looked down at his notes. Ms. Devereaux, we're here today to determine the safety of your minor child, Malik Devereaux, following an ingestion incident at Briarstone Elementary. Do you understand the nature of these proceedings? Yes, Camille said, voice barely audible. Speak up for the record. Yes, Your Honor. The prosecutor stepped forward. Your Honor, the department recommends temporary foster placement until an in-home safety plan can be verified and cleared by Child Protective Services. Camille's mouth dropped. Wait, what? Her lawyer touched her arm without looking at her. We object to that recommendation, he said flatly. The child is currently safe, the ingestion was unintentional, and the toxicology results show trace levels only. There is no pattern of harm, no evidence of neglect. The prosecutor smirked. Intent isn't the issue. There's a risk, until we understand the full chain of custody, where the food came from, how it was accessed. We believe a safety pause is justified. Camille's voice rose. I'm not a risk, I'm his mother. Judge Monroe raised a hand. Ms. Devereaux, you will not speak out of turn. Camille swallowed the rest of the sentence like fire. The judge leaned back. We'll set a follow-up hearing in 2 weeks. In the meantime, the child may remain in the home, provided a full in-home supervision plan is filed within 48 hours, and that all supervision be conducted by an approved adult. Camille blinked. What does that even mean? The gavel came down. Next case. Just like that in the hallway, Camille slumped onto the bench. Her hands trembled in her lap. Her lawyer checked his phone. We'll coordinate with DCFS. Someone will probably drop by tomorrow. Try to have the apartment clean. She didn't respond. He didn't wait for one. When he left, the tears came quietly. Not dramatic, not loud, just silent rivers down her cheeks, burning hot on her skin. She had done everything right, and it still wasn't enough. She didn't know how to fight a system that had already made up its mind. That night, as the sky dimmed to charcoal, Camille stared at Malik sleeping on the couch beside her, his breath steady, his hands still curled. Around his toy astronaut, she whispered, I'm sorry. And for the first time in weeks, she didn't believe it would all be okay. Alina didn't sleep that night. After court, Camille had called her from the bathroom of the courthouse. She hadn't cried, not out loud, but her voice had been hollow, like something inside had caved in and hadn't found the strength to stand back up. I'm being watched in my own home, Camille whispered, and no one's coming to help. Alina sat in the dark of her apartment, knees pulled to her chest, heart tight with rage. She thought of Malik's laugh, his love of planets, the way he once asked her if black astronauts got to float higher than the white ones. Her hands began to shake. But this time it wasn't fear, it was fury. The cursor blinked on the empty screen. She hesitated, then began typing. My name is Alina Devereaux. I'm a compliance analyst, a daughter, a sister, and an aunt. Last month, for my birthday, my estranged father mailed me a tin of cookies. I passed them to my sister Camille and her son Malik. 1 cookie. That's all it took. 1 cookie. And now my sister is being threatened with losing her child. She stopped, reread it, and kept going. The cookie contained trace THC, unintended. A bakery mistake. The hospital confirmed no harm, but the system didn't care. DCFS came. A court date followed. The prosecutor wants Malik in foster care for safety. My sister is a good mother. She works hard. She has no record, no history of neglect, but she's black. And the people in charge looked at her and didn't see a mother. They saw a case file. A warning sign. They weaponized policy and called it concern. Her eyes burned. Still, she wrote, this isn't about cookies. This is about how Black families are treated as inherently suspicious. How racism hides in procedures, in protocols, in the decisions made when no one is watching. Well, now we're watching. She hit post. At first, nothing. A few likes. A retweet from a colleague. Then someone with 200,000 followers reposted it with the caption, "This is horrifying. Read this thread." Within hours, it was everywhere. Alina's phone buzzed nonstop. Mentions, messages, shares. People commented with their own stories. Black mothers falsely accused. Social workers showing up over noise complaints. Teachers reporting neglect over missed homework. Camille called just after midnight. It's everywhere. I know, Alina said. You posted our story. I did. Camille was quiet. Then, gently, I'm glad you did. By morning, Alina's inbox was flooded. A journalist from the Chicago Tribune. A podcast producer. A nonprofit focused on parental rights. Even someone from a legal advocacy group offering guidance and visibility. Alina scrolled through the chaos with shaking fingers. She hadn't planned on going viral. She hadn't planned on becoming loud. But something in her had broken open and it wasn't going back. At work, she kept her head down. But during lunch, she noticed Trish glancing at her phone, then back at her. Whispers followed. That night, Alina got a message from a woman named Layla Johnson, a Black journalist who wrote on racial justice and family separation. I saw your post. I want to help. Not exploit, just amplify. If your sister's open to it, I'd like to talk. Either way, thank you for your voice. Alina forwarded the message to Camille. Within minutes, her sister replied, tell her yes. We've been quiet long enough. As the sun set, Alina sat on her balcony, watching the city blur into shadow and glow. She still felt the fear-like eyes were on her, waiting for her to say something wrong. But beneath that fear was something steadier. A spark, a choice. They couldn't erase what had happened, but now, they weren't alone. Asterisk. By Thursday morning, Camille's story had become more than a thread. It was a headline. Black mother fights family separation after cookie mistake sparks investigation. Layla Johnson stood on Camille's porch that afternoon, holding a small leather notebook and wearing a press badge clipped to her denim jacket. She looked young, late 20s maybe, but her eyes held depth, like she'd seen too many stories like this to be surprised by any of it. I'm not here to sensationalize you, Layla said. I'm here to listen. Camille hesitated in the doorway. And then what? Then I write what you say. Not what they think you meant. They sat at Camille's kitchen table. Alina joined them, arms crossed, protective. Malik stayed in his room with headphones on. Layla didn't press. She asked soft questions, listened more than she spoke, took notes quietly. She let the silence stretch when it needed to. When Camille finally described the courtroom, how the judge never looked her in the eye, how the prosecutor called her a risk, Layla just nodded and wrote. Like she already knew that story by heart. People think the system's broken, Layla murmured. But it's not. It's functioning exactly as it was built to. By Friday, the article was live. And so was something else. A local community group, Southside Justice Collective, had seen the piece. One of their organizers, Devonta, mid-30s Lokes, fierce warmth, called Camille directly. We believe you, he said. And we believe this isn't just about you. It's about all of us. He offered to organize a demonstration outside the courthouse on Monday. Peaceful, focused, filmed. We'll bring media, signs. We'll make sure they see who they're trying to disappear. Camille hesitated. I don't want to be a hashtag. You already are, he replied gently. The question is, who gets to tell the story from here? Monday morning, the courthouse didn't feel like a tomb. It felt like a stage. Dozens had gathered, neighbors, organizers, students, mothers holding toddlers on their hips. They carried hand-painted signs. Protect Black families. One cookie does not equal child endangerment. Love is not neglect. Camille stood near the steps in a simple black dress, trying not to tremble. Alina stood beside her, one hand on her back. Smile if you can, Alina whispered. But only if you want to. Devonta walked up and handed Camille a megaphone. You don't have to say much, he said. Just say something. This is your story. She looked out at the small sea of strangers who had shown up for her, not because they knew her, but because they recognized her. She raised the megaphone. hands steadying with each breath. "My name is Camille Devereaux," she said. "And I am not a danger to my son." Cheers erupted, but she kept going. "I'm not an addict, I'm not a criminal. I'm a mother. And what happened to me could happen to any mother who looks like me, who sounds like me, who lives where I live." She paused. "I gave my son a cookie. And now I'm being asked to prove I'm worthy to raise him. That's not justice. That's bias. That's racism in a nice suit with a clipboard." Applause. Camera shutters clicked. Layla stood at the back, recording. "I don't want pity," Camille said, voice strong now. "I want change." That night, Alina scrolled through footage online. Camille's words looped on screen. A video titled "She Spoke, We Heard" had already reached 12,000 views. For the first time, Alina didn't feel like they were just reacting. They were responding. Asterisk. By Wednesday, Camille's speech had been picked up by a national news outlet. Alina watched it again in her office. Earbuds in, heart pounding. She glanced around the open-plan floor. No one said anything. No one ever did. But she saw the glances, saw her own name briefly trending on the company's Slack thread before being quietly deleted. At lunch, she passed the break room. A cluster of coworkers, white all mid-level, stood near the coffee machine. "She made it all about race," one of them said, a voice Alina recognized. "Brent, from marketing," another chuckled. "It's always race. Systemic oppression this, injustice that. At some point, you gotta take accountability." Then Brent said it. Not loudly, but not whispered either. "Those people always have an excuse." Alina stopped walking. For a moment, her throat closed, then her feet turned. She stepped into the room. "What did you just say?" Brent turned. "Oh, Alina, we were just I know what you were just." The others backed away, shuffling, awkward. No one defended her. No one defended him either. Just silence and shifting eyes. "I'm not your lunchtime thought experiment," Alina said quietly. "You don't get to sit here and strip my sister's humanity down to a punchline because it makes you feel smarter." Brent's face reddened. "I didn't mean it like that, but you said it like that." She turned and walked away before he could say more. That Friday, the monthly day meeting began like all the others. Beige slides, HR jargon, and lukewarm coffee. The HR rep, a woman named Stacy, who always wore soft tones and apologized to much, stood at the front of the room. "This month, we're focusing on inclusion in crisis scenarios. Does anyone want to share a personal perspective?" The silence stretched, and then Alina stood. She didn't plan it, didn't script it, but the moment pulled her to her feet. "My name is Alina Devereaux," she began. "And you've probably seen the article. Maybe you watched the video. Maybe you muted it. I don't know." She looked at the room, rows of faces half turned toward her, unsure whether to engage or brace. "My sister was almost separated from her child. Because of one mistake that was never even hers. She was assumed guilty, dangerous, unfit, because she's black. All because of how the system sees us." She paused. "And when I came back here, to this office, what I heard was laughter. Excuses. Distance." She glanced at Brent. He didn't meet her eyes. "You talk about inclusion like it's a checklist. But when someone you know lives through injustice, your first instinct is to doubt, mock, minimize. That's not neutrality, that's complicity." The room was frozen. "I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm asking you to see it. See me. See her. See how fast the ground can shift beneath our feet." Silence. Then a single hand clapped. Another. And more. She sat down. Heart pounding. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. 2 weeks later. The courthouse was full again, but this time, Camille wasn't alone. Alina sat beside her in the hallway, Layla and Devante across from them. Supporters trickled in quietly. No chants, no signs, just presence. A quiet wall behind her. The courtroom was colder than she remembered. Judge Monroe adjusted his glasses and shuffled papers. He didn't look up when he spoke. After reviewing the testimony, medical reports, and supplemental documentation including the bakery statement and recorded phone call, this court finds no clear evidence of intent or negligence on the part of the mother. Camille barely breathed, while the Department of Children and Family Services acted within procedural scope. Monroe continued, "The court finds their actions in this case to be overzealous and unsupported by medical risk." Her lawyer nudged her. "The motion for temporary supervision is dismissed," Monroe concluded. "Custody remains with the mother." Case closed. The gavel cracked. Sharp. Final. Camille didn't move. Her heart beat too loud to hear anything else. Alina touched her hand. You won, but Camille only nodded, like she wasn't sure what winning felt like anymore. That night, Malik refused to sleep in his room. He climbed into bed beside her, wordless, clutching his astronaut plushie. Can I stay? He whispered. Camille brushed his hair back. Always. He pressed into her side. Even in sleep, he didn't let go. She should have felt triumphant. She was supposed to, but the silence in the apartment rang louder than any verdict. Every time a car idled outside, her muscles tensed. Every time the doorbell rang. She checked the peephole twice. She didn't know how long it would take to unlearn that fear. Alina stopped by the next morning. She brought groceries, cereal Malik liked, a few paperbacks from a local bookstore. Camille opened the door in her robe, eyes tired but clearer. They dropped it, she said quietly, like she still needed to hear it aloud. I know, Alina said. They sat in the kitchen. No reporters. No protesters. Just sisters. I don't think I'll ever feel safe the same way again, Camille said. Even though I did nothing wrong. I know, Alina said again. Camille traced the rim of her coffee mug. The system gave me my child back like a returned library book. No apology. No acknowledgement of what it took from me. It almost broke you. Camille nodded. And what if I didn't have you? You'd have still fought, Alina said gently, but you didn't have to fight alone. Camille looked at her, tears welling. I don't want to be brave anymore. Alina reached across the table. Then just be here. Be whole. The rest can wait. Outside, the city moved on, cars in motion, school bells ringing. People scrolling past headlines without clicking. But inside that kitchen, something had shifted. The system hadn't shattered, but they had survived it. ***, 3 weeks had passed. The media moved on. The courthouse was someone else's battle now. Camille had taken down the protest signs, still taped to her front window. Malik was back in school full time. The apartment no longer felt like a waiting room, but the air still held something fragile. Alina pulled up in front of Camille's building late Saturday morning, holding a brown paper bag of oranges and tea. The street was quiet, spring finally, beginning to stretch its arms over South Suburbia. She knocked softly. Malik answered. He'd grown, not physically, maybe, but in some unspoken way, like he'd been stretched by something invisible and came back different. Auntie Lena, he grinned. Alina smiled back. Hey, sweet pea. He grabbed her hand and tugged her inside. I saved you something. Camille waved from the kitchen, wearing her robe, a smile on her face but tired still in her eyes. He's been waiting all morning. Malik pulled Alina toward the dining table. There, sitting alone in the center of a ceramic plate, was the last cookie. Round, slightly crumbled at the edge, wrapped in a square of wax paper. I kept it, he said proudly. Everyone else ate theirs, but I saved this one. Alina blinked. That's the last one. He nodded. It's okay now. She stared at it, then at him. He didn't flinch, didn't hesitate, and just like that, the moment cracked something open inside her. She picked it up gently and broke it in half. Half for me, she whispered, half for you. Malik took his piece and sat beside her, swinging his legs. They ate in silence, chewing slowly, like it was holy. Camille sat across from them and watched, one hand resting over her heart. Alina closed her eyes, savoring the sweetness. The flavor hadn't changed, but everything around it had. The cookie was no longer about guilt, it was survival. After a long pause, Alina whispered, I'm sorry I gave them to you without knowing. Camille shook her head. You gave us a gift. The system turned it into something else. They were quiet again. Then Alina did something she hadn't done since the day it all began. She cried. No sobbing, no collapse. Just tears, low, hot, steady, streaming down her face, carving through the walls she'd held too tightly. Camille reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You don't have to carry it anymore, she said. I didn't know how much I was, Alina replied. Malik leaned into her side. It's okay now, he repeated. You don't have to be sad. Alina wrapped her arm around him. I'm not sad, baby, just full. The sun poured through the window, warming the wood floors, catching in the corners like light. Finally returning home, there was no perfect ending, no sudden justice, no ribbon tied around the pain, but there was this family, still here, still holding on, and a cookie, finally shared.